can I see you again? I met her Saturday evening. My friend and I decided to go play pool. We got to the bar and ordered our drinks. Mark won the first game because I missed my shot and sunk the 8-ball, but the next game was mine. It was close, but I won. We sat down to enjoy our drinks when a group of girls came in. They got some drinks and came to shoot pool as well. Mark and I watched them play, but there was just one who was really good. It was like each pocket was a vortex pulling in one solid after another. Their game ended and Mark made note of me checking out the pool pro. "Go talk to her," he said. "Okay," I said. I walked over to her and asked, "Do you want to play a game? My treat." "Sure," she said as I pitched in the quarters and grabbed my stick. "You can break," I said. She smiled and bent low, aiming her shot. Crack! The balls broke apart and a strike found its way into the corner pocket. She was aiming her next shot when I asked her, "Have you lived here long?" "No," she said. "I actually just moved here a few weeks ago." "Why the move?" "I needed to get away from my ex," she said. "What happened?" I asked. "It's complicated." "Fair enough," I said. "How are you doing with the move?" "I'm still learning where everything is," she said. "This town isn't very big," I said, sinking my ball. "I can show you around if you want." "That's sweet," she said. "I think I'd like that." We played for a few more minutes with me winning before she handed me a napkin and left with her friends. I walked over to Mark, a satisfied look on my face. He fist bumped me when I showed him the napkin. "Sweet," he said. "You got her number." "Yeah," I said. "I'll text her when I get home." "Awesome," he said. "Let's play one more game." I lost our last game and dropped him off at his house before going home myself. I went in and took a shower, taking my wallet and phone and putting them on the sink. I got out and got dressed before grabbing my phone and going to my room. My message wasn't anything too long. It read, "Hey, this is Sam. We met at the bar today. Great game. I just got home. I'm going to bed. I'll text you tomorrow sometime. Hope you made it home safely." I hit send and proceeded to get in my bed when my phone dinged and she had texted back. "Good night," it said. Part 2. One restful night's sleep later, I awoke feeling refreshed. I grabbed my phone and went to the kitchen to make breakfast. I put some sausage and bacon on the stove and sat down. It was still early and she might not be awake yet. I decided to wait a while before texting. I ate, and since I had nothing to do today, needed to go pick up groceries. Getting in my car, I plugged in my phone and started my morning ritual off with starting the day with some music. The grocery store was only a couple of blocks from my house, but I still stopped for gas. I paid at the pump and got back in my car while I waited. I picked up my phone and texted her. "I never did get your name," it said. My tank was full and I made my way into the parking lot across the street. It wasn't very busy, so I should be able to get in and out. My phone vibrated in my pocket as I walked in. I paused and pulled it out. "Emily," it said. I responded, "That's a pretty name. What are you up to?" "I'm putting in some applications," she said. "Then I'm going to head home. What about you?" "I'm picking up some things from the store and then probably going to do the same," I said. I didn't have much to pick up anyway, just the necessities, so I did get done in a reasonable time. I drove home listening to some throwbacks. I pulled into my driveway and grabbed my bags off the passenger seat and headed inside. After I put my groceries up, I texted Emily again. "Do you want to go to the park with me tomorrow? There's a really nice one near my house." "That sounds like fun," she said. "I used to love taking nature walks and people watch." "Wow, that is always fun," I replied. "It sounds like a plan. Send me your address so I can pick you up." "Okay," she said, followed by her address. "Sweet," I said, closing my phone. That sealed the deal. I have a date tomorrow, and it's a good way to spend my day. The rest of my day passed normally. We texted more, just getting to know each other better. "Where did you move from?" I asked. "Greenville," she said. "It was a really big town, so it's a wonder why I get so lost here." "LOL," I texted. "It's always hard to get acclimated during a move." "Right, well, I've got some stuff to do around the house," she said. "But I'll see you tomorrow," she added with a smiling face. I watched TV for a little while and decided to go to bed early, so I took a hot shower and curled up in my blankets and fell asleep, with something to look forward to the next day. Part 3. The next day I got up and prepared for my date. We were just going to the park, so there was no point in dressing up. I put on some blue jeans and a black t-shirt, grabbed some breakfast, and headed out the door. I entered her address in my GPS and drove to her house. Surprisingly, it was only a few miles from where I lived. It was on a back road, though, that I never went down, and there were trees on both sides. I got to her house. It was a cozy place that had a tire swing hung under a tree away from the road. I turned my car off and walked to her door, knocking on it when I got there. She answered and was putting on an airing. "Hey," she said. "I'm almost ready. Come in." I obliged and entered, looking around. It was bigger than it seemed from the outside and very clean. Fresh flowers had been placed in a vase with some water in it. I took some pictures hung on the wall, but it looked like one of them had been taken down. I sat on the couch and waited patiently for Emily to finish. I continued glancing around. She really did have a thing for nature, because there were photographs of various landscapes. They didn't have people in them, but they were gorgeous to look at. She returned carrying her purse. "I'm ready," she told me. I got up and held the door open as she passed me with a smile. "Nice car," she said. I thought it was. My dad had left me his Camaro when he died, and I always took really good care of it. We got in and headed to the park. It was a weekday, so there were a few people there. The park had a lake with a trail that looped around it. "It's such a nice day," she said, taking a breath. I nodded. "What was Greenville like? I've never been." "It's gotten really big over the years," she said. "It was a lot smaller, but after they built the interstate, more and more people came. They had just built a mall." "Neat," I said. "Do you miss it at all?" "Sometimes," she said, "but I had to leave." "Yeah, you did mention that you and your ex were having problems," I said. "What did he do, if you don't mind me asking?" "We were having problems, so I broke up with him and left," she said simply. She said no more. We circled around the lake and came to a playground. I remember the tire swing. "Want to go for a swing?" I asked. She smiled widely and began walking over to the swing set. "Bet I can beat you on the jump," she said. "You're on," I challenged. We swung higher and higher until our seat started bouncing. "On three," I called. "1, 2, 3." We launched ourselves into the air and landed on our feet, falling backwards until we were side by side. We were both laughing. When our eyes met, I propped myself up on one arm and leaned over her, hesitating for a few seconds to see how she would react. She looked up at me wearing a shy smile. I leaned forward and paused just before our lips met. I hovered there for a moment, with my eyes gently closed, when I felt her lips gently press against mine. We broke apart after a few seconds, laughing. "Wow," she said. I smiled, trying not to look too proud of myself. I got to my feet, helping her up, and brushing ourselves off, we made our way back to my car. "That was so much fun," she said as I walked her to her door. "We have to do that again." I smiled. "We will, don't worry." "See you again soon," I said, kissing her once more before turning away and leaving. When I got home, I texted Mark. He told me way to go, and he hoped it worked out for us. I was hoping for the same thing. Part 4. Emily and I had started dating pretty frequently. It was great. She and I were the perfect balance between similar and different. We liked the same music, but while I liked Italian food, she was a fan of seafood, so on and so forth. Things like that were minor compared to a lot of relationships nowadays. We never really argued. I went to her house one day and we were sitting on a couch watching TV when I noticed something in the corner peeking from under a rug. "Is that a trap door?" I said, pointing to the corner. She got a weird look in her eyes and quickly said, "That's just the cellar. It came with the house. I keep a lot of boxes down there for storage." "Oh, okay," I said. We were watching TV, but 3 glasses of tea later, I had really had to take care of some business. I excused myself and made my way to the bathroom. After, I went back to the living room and sat on the couch again, putting my arm around her. I looked in the corner again. The rug was pulled back over the cellar door. "I'm kind of tired," she said. "Do you want to lay down with me?" "Sure," I told her. We got up and went to the bedroom, climbing in bed and wrapping ourselves in blankets. I wrapped my arm over her, and she nestled her cheek in on my shoulder. We were laying there when she looked up at me with her big caramel eyes. "I love you," she said. I smiled and kissed her forehead. "I love you too," I said. I spent the night with her, and it was pleasant to say the least. I awoke the next morning holding her. I let go, and she stirred, but didn't wake up. I sat on the side of the bed and stretched before going into the kitchen and taking out some eggs from the refrigerator. I put them on the stove and cooked a few pieces of toast and lathered them in jelly. I also poured a cup of milk before taking the eggs and putting them on a plate. Grabbing an apple, I made my way back to the room. Just in time, too. She had just woken up and lit up as I returned carrying her breakfast. "Good morning," I said, smiling and handing her the plate as she sat up. "Oh, you're amazing," she said, digging in. We'd been dating for a few months now, and I thought it was a good time to ask, "Will you move in with me?" She chewed a piece of toast before swallowing. She looked at me and smiled wider than I ever saw her. "Yes, of course I will," she said. "Awesome," I said. "I'll help you start packing tomorrow." I returned home and she called me that night and told me she had an interview at a bank in town. I told her I was happy for her, and if she wanted, I could start helping her pack. That way there wouldn't be much to do when she got home. She told me that was a great idea and she'd leave a key under the doormat. I arrived the next day, but her car was already gone. I got out and took the key from under the doormat and went inside. She had laid out some boxes for me. She was the best. I wasn't sure how long she'd been gone, but most of her stuff was pretty small. I put away the plates, cups, and worked on the photos on the wall. Most of the packing had been done within an hour and a half. She hadn't returned yet, so I decided to take what I had back to my place. I got back and figured I'd see how many boxes were in the cellar, so I'd be able to bring them up if we could get done faster. When I opened the door, I got a chill. It was really cold down there, but I went down anyway. It was dark, so I felt around for some kind of light switch. I found a cord and pulled down. A light came on, and I looked around. When I turned, my eyes widened, and I wished I was plunged back in the darkness. Sitting on a table was a dummy with large blue wooden eyes and sandy blonde hair. I wasn't sure what I was looking at. The puppet looked very similar to me. Around it were various colored candles and incenses, and a rug was placed on the floor in front of the table. The worst part was there was a photograph beside it. Mark and I were playing pool that night. It was the one of Mark and I playing pool that night. I was bent over the table with a smug smile on my face. I backed away slowly and turned off the light, climbing out of the cellar and closing it. I felt like I was being watched. I didn't want to turn around, but against my better judgment I did, and saw Emily standing in the doorway with a worried expression. "What are you doing?" she asked. Part 5. We stared at each other for what seemed like hours. I don't think either of us knew what to say. What did I just see? Who was this person I thought I knew? What the hell is going on? I asked. I got sad when we weren't together, so I made a little you to keep me company until I had the real thing, she said. She sounded insane. Last night when I looked in her eyes, I felt warmth and love. Now I was standing into the eyes of a walking neurosis. I had to get out of there, but she was blocking my only way out. "Please don't leave," she said, with tears forming in her eyes. "Are you going to try to stop me?" I asked cautiously. She made her lips into a line and shook her head. Slowly she stepped aside and I walked past, keeping my eyes on her until I reached the car. "I don't want to lose you," she called to me. I slammed my car door shut and quickly backed out of her driveway. My eyes never left the rearview mirror until I was miles down the road. My breathing was heavy and choppy. I pulled over for a second and just took a minute to get my head on again. I couldn't get the image of that doll out of my mind. Call me crazy, but some of the hair on that puppet's head looked a little too real. Slowly I put a hand on my head and felt around. My breath came sharp. My hair was uneven at the ends. I got back on the road and sped to my house, going in and locking the door. I got Mark on the phone, but it went to voicemail. I hung up and sat down, putting my head in my hands. My thoughts were racing. We were together for months, and I never would have guessed. Sure, she could be a little absent-minded at times, but this chick was seriously disturbed. To think I asked her to live with me. A lump rose in my throat. She knows where I live. I was shaking all over. I needed to calm myself down. She doesn't want to hurt me, I thought. She's just a really creepy woman. She let me leave the house after all. I looked out my blinds. I didn't see anything. My phone rang from my pocket and I pulled it out. The screen said Emily. No way was I going to answer it. I declined the call and seconds later a text appeared on my screen. "Can we talk?" she wrote. I dialed Mark again, hoping he'd pick up. "Hello," he said. "Mark," I said. I need you to come over, man. I need your help." Mark was quiet for a second. "Sure," he said. "Give me 20 minutes. "Thanks, man," I told him. "I'll tell you more when you get here." "Okay," Mark said, hanging up. I went to the windows and kept my eyes on the street in front of my house so I would know when Mark or anybody else was coming. I never stopped shaking. I thought about calling the police, but obsession wasn't a crime. My eyes were glued to the phone, watching the clock. I got a text and shut up my eyes. "Please," it said. 10 minutes later, I saw lights in my window. Someone had driven up. Seconds later, I heard a knock on the door. I jumped up, almost out of reflex, but didn't move. "Who is it?" I shouted. "It's Mark," I heard from the other side of the door. Feeling at ease, I walked over and opened the door. Mark stood there. I motioned for him to come inside. He passed me and we went to sit on the couch. I got here as fast as I could. "What's up, man?" I opened my mouth to tell him, but I didn't know where to start. I told him basically everything that happened after that night. I mean, there's no way you can prepare anyone for that. He just stared at me in disbelief. I finished. He paused before speaking. "Dude, you saying the picture was taken before she got there?" "Yeah," I said. "I still have goosebumps." My phone went off, and it said, "My stuff is at your house." Slowly, I turned my head to the spare room. There were boxes of Emily's things still in my house. I looked at Mark. "So, this is happening. She's coming here." Mark pinched the bridge of his nose between two fingers. You have work tomorrow. I'll see that she gets them. Go ahead and tell her okay. Thanks, man. I messaged her back telling her to come by and pick up her stuff tomorrow. Part 7. I went to work and was halfway done with my shift when my boss came and said someone wanted to see me. I walked outside and almost had a panic attack. Emily stood there looking at me. What the hell are you doing here? I said. I don't want to lose you, she repeated. Go get your luggage before I call the police. She started to cry, but I turned away and went inside. Mark texted me later and said she had came by. I thanked him again. A few hours later I went home, still uneasy. I drove by her house, but her car was there. Good. I got home and saw Mark had already left. There was no one home. I went inside and looked around. I went through the house and locked all the doors and windows before going inside and getting ready to bed. I was so tired after all of this. I felt for the first time in days I would get a decent night's sleep. I got undressed and went to get in bed. I lay down and saw something that made my skin crawl. Silhouetted against the darkness of my room, a familiar face was smiling at me from my closet door, which was slowly creaking open.